Good afternoon and welcome everybody to PurpleMumble. My name is Linda and I'm streaming today on how to make an eggless chocolate and beetroot blitz and bake cake. Can you please confirm that you're able to hear me? Well, just a thumbs up would be good. I'll keep an eye on the stream as I'm moving along. Okay, so the reason that we're making an eggless chocolate and beetroot blitz cake, which I'm going to do my very best to veganize for you today, is we have a son who's suffered some head injuries of late and has been struggling to recover from those injuries. And we have been told that it's probably a good idea to try a vegan diet. Let me just back up this backing music for you just a little bit. Just got a little bit of elevator music going on in the background there. I do hope that you guys were able to pick up the ingredients. The link was posted on my homepage, so hopefully you're able to grab those ingredients and see the substitutions that I've put into place in the hope to veganize this a little bit more. Now, we're not true hardcore vegans here. We're just kind of touching on the edges of veganism, doing our best to update as many recipes as we possibly can. So some of my ingredients may not be wholeheartedly vegan themselves, but this is a really simple cake to whip up together and provide some good nutrients inside there with the beetroot, and a great way to start that pathway to veganism if that's what you're planning on doing. So first things first, as you get to know PurpleMumble streams, you'll see that I'll pretty much, probably always, until it falls apart, be wearing this apron. And this was my mum's apron. So, yeah, kind of brings a little bit of my mum into the kitchen with me each time I cook. We lost mum several years ago, so it's nice to kind of have mum with me still. And something else that I have to do is have a cup of tea. So excuse me whilst I flick the kettle on. Today I'm going to be having a puka lemongrass and ginger tea. Puka teas are just delicious. There's lots of flavors out there, lots of varieties, and I love anything that's lemongrass and ginger. So I'm not sure I've opened this box before. It must be a new one. Oh no, there we go. Grab one of those out. And the great thing about these as well, I mean, it's not good for the environment, but it is paper, so I do recycle. All of the teas are individually wrapped in their boxes, so the tea bags are individually wrapped. So if you're traveling, you can sling one inside your handbag or in your pocket, and you've always got a nice tea to take with you. So I'm just going to turn the mic off a minute because my kettle whistles when it boils, and that's going to scream down the mic at you, so bear with one moment. Oh, there's a lovely cup of tea on the go there. Right, I'm going to pop this into the recycle bin. I'll bring that recycle bin out because I might need that for something else later. Right, so ingredients we need for today. It says 100 mils of rapeseed oil. I don't know if they meant grapeseed oil. You'll see the link to the recipe. It does say rapeseed oil in there. I don't know if there is such a thing. Last time I made it, I used canola oil. But this time I'm going to try using coconut oil, and we'll see how well that turns out. We need some vacuum-packed beetroot. Let me just grab my beetroot. So I went to the supermarket and purchased raw beetroot rather than getting the vacuum-packed stuff, and I actually bought more than I need. So here's my beetroot. I've cooked that in boiling water for, it's about 20-25 minutes. Just brought it to a gentle simmer, and you just want it until you stick a knife in and it's kind of the firmness of a almost cooked potato. And then it's really, really easy to peel. Cool it off, get your hands into the sink with it and just rub it in your hands, and the skin will just drop right away from there. Will the coconut oil make it sweeter? No, actually, coconut oil is just very, very coconutty. I think M. Sarge, who's my poor husband. I think he's probably thinking of Bounty bars, or I can't remember the name of the bars in the States where there's that sweet, sticky, coconutty taste to them, which I absolutely detest myself. But no, coconut oil doesn't really have a sweetness to it. So coconut oil, you can either get it in a tub or a jar. I buy mine in a jar here. And you can tell what the temperature's like inside your house, because at about 26 degrees, thereabouts, this starts to melt, so it's more of a liquid at that point. But it's a great substitute for cooking oils to cook with. I believe, if I remember correctly, you have to be careful with coconut oil not to get it overly heated. Much like olive oil, if it gets too hot in the pan and starts smoking, I think that can be carcinogenic. Don't quote me, just be cautious of your oils and only heat them to the temperature that you need them to heat to. It's asked us for dark, soft brown sugar. I'm going to be using raw sugar. Where did I put the tub? There it is. I've got a tub of raw sugar here. Self-raising flour, I've got plain flour with some baking powder that I'll be adding to that to make it self-raising. You could use a whole wheat flour. You could possibly use a gluten-free flour. I haven't tried it, and that's something that I'm going to try down the road. Baking powder I've got there. So this self-raising flour itself, what I've been doing is adding extra baking powder to it. So I don't know if the extra baking powder is there to help lift it, whereas the eggs would have normally done that in a chocolate cake if you had eggs as well. Cocoa powder, so you can use cacao powder, which is more vegan than what I have. I've got a cocoa powder here today. And I think cocoa powder itself has got some sweeteners added to it. It says in here it's pure cocoa powder, 100%, but I can't help but think something's been added to it. It does say it's suitable for vegetarians, so maybe we're safe with veganism on that note. But that's what I'll be using, something I had in the pantry and it needs using up. Natural yogurt. So you can buy vegan yogurts, and that tends to be a coconut milk base. But I think I'm going to try making my own here today. So another recipe that my lovely, rest in peace, mum-in-law, I had the best mum-in-law in the world. She had the best banana bread recipe, and she used to use buttermilk in that. And dear mum told me that if you don't have yogurt, if you don't have buttermilk, and you don't have sour cream, just take some milk, add some lemon juice, and it's a good substitute. So I'm going to be doing that today. 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and I've got a cheap off-the-shelf vanilla essence, probably again not vegan, but maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but that's what I'm going to be using today. There is an icing that can go on top of this cake, and they're calling for icing sugar, which of course is quite highly processed. So I'm going to see if I can magic something together with my good old raw sugar. It says dark chocolate, at least 80% cocoa solids. Inside my pantry, I've got some chocolate buttons. They're dark chocolate. And it says on these that it contains soybeans and maybe present milk. So it might have it might have been produced in a factory that deals with dairy products. I don't know, but that's what I'm going to be using today. Then it says 3 tablespoons of skim milk powder. And I think rather than using that, I'll probably just use maybe a little bit of my soy milk if it needs any additional moisture, because I'm looking for something that's kind of pourable, so a slight pourable consistency. So maybe the coconut oil might be useful for that. I'm really just going to have to play with this as I'm working my way through. So we'll see how it goes. First thing I'm going to do is get this natural yogurt sorted out. So they're looking for 200 grams of natural yogurt. So let me just grab a measuring jug. I've weighed my beetroot out after I cooked it, and I've actually bought too much. So the recipe calls for 175 grams of beetroot, so that's after you've drained it or taken it out of the pan and let the water drain away. Don't buy the stuff that's packaged in vinegar. That would be quite horrible. You don't want pickled beetroot. So I'm going to double my recipe here, because I've got about, I think it's 350 grams of beetroot. So what I'm going to do is make my recipe using this big pan, and then split it also between, I've got 4 of these little non-stick pans, wonderful things that they are. I do love these springform pans. They make it so easy to get your cakes out after you've finished baking. So first things first, let me just grab my soy milk and some lemon juice, and I'll try making my own yogurt, or kind of a yogurty base here. So the soy milk I'm using is called Vida Soy Milky. So my family were traditionally cow's milk. We would have skim or trim milk or fat-free milk. And we struggle to find a milk with a similar taste in our drinks. So what I've done is gone through about every range of alternative to dairy. Long life, they tend to be milk brands. And I've had soy, I've had almond milk, I've had oat milk, I've tried making sesame milk, and nothing has tasted quite right until I bought this. So this still isn't quite right. This is Vida Soy Milky Light. But what we found is if we mix this half and half with water, it's actually as close to skim milk or trim milk, fat-free milk, as we can come up with. And so that's what we've been doing. I take one of these and use one of these, so it's half of one of these jugs, which is 1 litre, to I fill it up halfway because this is a 2 litre jug. So I've just been doing, this one's a full one, so a full one of these to a full jug, a 2 litre jug, and it's about the right taste and consistency. Let me put this one back in the fridge so it's already chilled when I'm ready to use it. Now, because this is asking for 200 grams of fat-free natural yogurt, I'm just going to see what 200 grams, so I'm going to weigh this out. Let me turn my camera down so you can see what I'm up to. Just going to weigh myself 200 grams of the milk and see where it sits, and because I'm going to be doing double the recipe here, I'm probably going to need 400 grams, which might be about 400 mils. Let's have a look and see. I really don't know how much milk weighs. There's 406. That's a little bit more than I needed, so let me just return a little bit of that to the jug, because I want some room in there for lemon juice. So it's 377. Let me give it a good squirt of lemon juice. 394. Whoopsies. Put that lid on tight, otherwise it's just going to launch everywhere. Just need a little bit more milk. This, 410. Oh well, ho hum, be close enough. This jug has been awesome. I'm going to grab another one of these out of Kmart, $5. So that's an awesome deal. Unfortunately, Kmart is out of stock of them at the moment. At least they are in New Zealand, and that's because with the current problems with coronavirus, we just don't have the ability to import everything as we were previously. So I'm just going to let that sit for a wee while, and hopefully that will maybe thicken up or sour off. Actually, it's thickening up as I'm looking at it. Let me show you that. It's just slightly thicker than it was a wee while ago. So I'm looking for that to even curdle, which will be absolutely fine, and maybe get a slightly heavier thickness to it. And I've got about 410 grams when I was looking for 400 grams, so I might just put a little less than I need to into my mix when I go ahead and get this going. Now, this is a really, really fast cake. Very easy to make if you've got a blender, which or a food processor, which I do. So it pulls together so quickly. If you're going to be using one of these great big ovens, as I have off to my left here, just there, you probably want to set that running now. I'm actually going to be using that little benchtop oven over there, and I'm just going to bake the small pan, so I won't be baking this one straight away. I'll do that when I'm off air. I'm hoping that these little ones will bake a little bit faster, because it actually takes about 50 minutes to an hour to cook these, and I don't know if I can natter away and keep you entertained for that long. So before I get all hardcore, I better just jump in again and wash my hands. I had washed them earlier, but I think it's always a good thing to make sure people are seeing that you're washing your hands on stream. Right. So things I need to pull together, first of all, is the coconut oil. So what I'm going to do is measure it directly into my food processor. So I've got my food processor here. Wonderful machine. I've had it for donkey's years. Made by Braun, bought when we were living overseas, and it works great. There's all kinds of attachments that go with it. So a coconut oil ready. So I found out with a little bit of Googling, a little bit of research, that 100 mils of oil or coconut oil weighs about 92.4 grams. So that means I need about 185 grams to get this recipe going. So I'll measure that out first of all, but cheers, cup of tea to begin with. I've just had a nudge to the side saying, have a read of the chat and see what's going on. So let's have a quick look. What have I missed? Okay, they're trying. Eskimo brother and his wife are trying to cut out sugar. Does this cake have sugar in it? Yes, it does. It asks for a dark, soft brown sugar, and if you go onto my front page, you'll see that there's a link to the recipe. But you could use stevia. You could find some other sugar alternatives. I'm just trying to think if I've got a sugarless cake recipe. I'll have a root around and see if there's anything inside my recipe book that's sugarless or sugar-free. So there is sugar in this. I'm going to be using raw sugar. So it really depends the reasons why you may be trying to cut sugar out of your diet. Certainly, I would highly recommend cutting out white sugar. It's very, very heavily processed. The majority of it is anyway, so it's a good path to be on. But I think, probably 175 grams of sugar for the size of cake that you end up with here, and it's quite dense and quite heavy. If you're using a raw sugar or unprocessed sugar, or try sweetening with honey or maple syrup, it's probably a good path to go down. You're still getting that sweetness in there, or perhaps use dates as a wonderful way of sweetening things, but it'll just take some toying around. Anything else I need to read here? Oh, it was her idea. Then always do as your wife says. M. Sarge will tell you, happy wife, happy life. Right. But no, this recipe doesn't have any eggs in it, so if you have an allergy to eggs, or you're trying to cut eggs out because of a vegan dietary choice or any other reason, or vegetarian dietary choice, then no eggs in this recipe. In fact, I've not had eggs inside my pantry for 2 weeks now. I gave the last 2 eggs that I had away, so I wouldn't have to let them go to waste. Right, you can see my coconut oil is actually quite runny. It's warm in my kitchen today. It's been a nice warm day today, and I've just had to try to cool it down in here a little bit for us. But if I lift the jar up, you can see how, if I turn it sideways, you can see how really liquidy that is. And generally, you have to kind of scrape this away from the sides of the jar, so I'm really pleased that that's runny. So let me just turn the camera down. You can watch as I'm preparing this. I'm going to be popping the equivalent of 100 mils of rapeseed oil. If you decide to use an oil instead, we found canola oil works just as well. But I'm going to be doing the equivalent of 100 mils of rapeseed oil, which is 92.4 grams. I'll be doubling it because I'm doubling the recipe because I've got way more beetroot than I need. So let me just drop this into here. That's 2 tablespoons, 3, and we just pour it. Be much quicker. So what did I say? I need 185 grams. There's 145. I don't really want to go over because it's going to be a nightmare to get it out of here again. 187. There begins my nightmare. So I'm just going to leave that spoon inside the jar because I think we need to go back to this later on. Yeah, I might be going back to that later on when I come to make the ganache or the chocolatey topping that I want to put on top of this. So let's see how that milk is coming along. Oh, it's a little bit thicker than it was, but it's finished thickening, I think. I might give it another shot of lemon juice. Bear with. Another quick squeeze of lemon juice, and I will have to be very conscious of how much of this I'm adding to the mixture. But it is quite a wet cake mix when you pull it together and pop it into the oven, so sit that back over there. Now comes the fun part. This is the easy part. It's asking for 175 grams strained weight of vacuum-packed beetroot. The vacuum-packed beetroot that I've purchased in the past has been 250 grams, and I've just increased the measurements of all the ingredients by about a third to accommodate the beetroot so I don't have leftovers. So let me have a look. So yep, make sure you're using vacuum-packed beetroot, and don't use pickled beetroot. That would be ick. So here's my lovely beetroot. So make sure you got a nice sharp blade on your kitchen whiz, or food processor, blender, whatever it is that you're using. You don't want a plastic one in this because you've got to be able to chop that beetroot up. Because I don't want this to splash on me, I'm going to spear and drop that in if I can. In fact, before I do that, I'm just going to chop it in half because I think it might struggle to get down to the blades. Here comes that knife again, Emsage. I know how much you love to see me using knives. I'll try not to chop the fingers off. These are some pretty big beetroots. So when I cooked these up, it looked like I'd committed a murder in the kitchen. The sink was all bloody. Stuff just got everywhere, and my hands looked like I'd committed the crime, as does my chopping board now. So as I mentioned earlier, the recipe for this beetroot cake is on my homepage, and you'll see notes associated with that where I've veganized the recipe as best I can. And you may have some other ideas for veganizing this. You may not think that's 100% vegan, but generally people that are going down the vegan route have a good understanding of what ingredients can be substituted. And look at that. Oh, lovely. It looks like blood. I'll pour that into there as well. Just rinse that out so nothing stains. Get this out of the way. Okay, another slab of tea. Nope, not going to the ER. No fingers have been harmed in the making of this cake. However, everything in the kitchen has gone blood red. Yeah, no, sorry, I don't have my shoes on. I can't keep my shoes on when I'm cooking. I'm in my kitchen. I like to be barefoot, and so I shall be. Just have to be careful. Just trying to move this food mixer over so you can watch this come together in its gloriousness. Drop that into place. I said this is such a fast, easy recipe to pull together. So where did I put the lid? There it is. Yeah, Emsage like his woman barefoot in the kitchen. Didn't you used to say barefoot and pregnant? I'm sure you did. Right, so it's going to get noisy here, folks, so I'm just going to flick my mic off so I don't deafen you all. BRB. I'll just step back from the shenanigans, so hopefully it's not too noisy with the mixer going there. You can see it just blends up so fast. I do have a few chunks on the sides though, so let me just poke those down into the rest of the mix. I was just reading the chat there. No, I'm not pregnant. Do I look pregnant? It'd be a miracle if it is, and there's be a few doctors that will have some questions to answer. Right. That's starting to mix through, but I'll get some more ingredients added in there because my beetroot was refrigerated. That coconut oil has picked up the coolness from the beetroot and it's become quite thick. So I think we'll get a few more ingredients in there so we can mix up a little bit more. So it says 175 grams of dark soft brown sugar. I'm going to be using raw sugar, so you could substitute with stevia or something else, dates or whatever, but I wouldn't know what measurements to give you on that, unfortunately. So I'll just get my scales out, measure out. And since I'm doing the double of the recipe here, we're looking for so I was just reading back just to make sure I'd put enough coconut oil in there. I have, yeah, 175, so that's 350 grams I need of sugar for my double the recipe. So scrape that through. There's a lump in there, not to worry, that'll soon get blitzed through. 47, 350, 351, ho-hum. I'm going to move the sugar to the side because I will be using it again. And what I'm going to try and do is blitz my sugar up inside a coffee grinder that I have in the hope that I can get more of an icing sugar texture and be able to use that to make the chocolate ganache mix for the top. You just pour that sugar into there. There is a lot of sugar, isn't there? Oh well. Let's see how it comes up. Just going to turn the mic off again. Right, I'm going to poke down these sides a little bit. Starting to mix through quite nicely. It's got quite a pretty pink colour in places here. And that coconut oil is starting to warm through and soften again, thank goodness. That's great news. So yes, raw sugar is much better for you than that regular processed sugar that you buy. I've stopped buying the white refined sugar. I don't see a benefit to it. Oh, I was just having a read. Oh, you can use crystallized sugar cane. It's a whole food. They just boil the cane and let the sap crystallize. Oh, there you go. It still has the natural molasses in it. So there you go. There's another choice that you have. My wife eats more sugar than I do, but she wants me to do it too. You know, the whole support each other and all. Good. I'm glad to hear that. You should support one another in these dietary quests that we go through, and particularly if your wife's doing most of the cooking, then I guess if you don't support her, you're not going to get much to eat, are you? Gosh, that cup of tea is nice. Just going to flick the mic off again. Turn on the mic, turn on the mic, turn on the mic. Sorry. I'll go back and do this again. There's our beetroot. The little white globules that you see inside there, that's the coconut oil, where it's still quite firm against the cold beetroot that I've put into there. But once it gets into the oven, it will soften up a lot more. So next thing we're looking to add is on the recipe is our self-raising flour. I'm going to be using plain flour or all-purpose flour, as it's known in the States. And generally it takes about a teaspoon of baking powder to a cup of regular flour to turn it into self-raising flour. Now the baking powder itself is also added, so we need another 1 tablespoon of baking powder on its own to go in this recipe on top of what I'm having to add as an extra to the flour to make it self-raising flour instead of all-purpose. So let me grab my bowl once more. So we're looking for 200 grams of self-raising flour. I'm going to be using 400 grams because, as I've mentioned before, I'm doubling the recipe here. So let's see how much I can get into one bowl. And isn't this just awesome how you can just throw everything into one food processor and mix that little sucker up? It's nothing worse than when you're finished with your baking looking at all those dishes afterwards. Generally when hubby or son are around, it's like, okay, you want to eat it, you better help clean up the mess. I do the baking, they do the cleaning up. So there's about 400 grams of all-purpose flour. So I need to add probably, I usually say 2 teaspoons for a cup. There's about 4 cups of flour there, so I need 8 teaspoons of baking powder. Sorry, 1 teaspoon for a cup, so that would be 4 teaspoons of baking powder. Good job I double-checked myself. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to be adding more baking powder shortly as the recipe is asking. So what I'll do is just drop this into, thank you for popping that up there, Msaj or hubby. That's 400 grams of all-purpose flour and 4 teaspoons of baking powder. So we'll pop that into the mix. Again, I'm doing double the mix here, so if you're just doing the single batch, that will be 200 grams of all-purpose flour and 2 teaspoons of baking powder. I'm just going to put half of that in there to start with. We'll blitz that through first. So I'm cooking the double recipe. The recipe that you'll find on my homepage is the single recipe. I'm purely doing the double recipe if you've just joined us because I bought more beetroot than the recipe calls for. Bear with me one moment whilst I get this little monster running again. Okay, so that's my first part of the flour blended through nicely, and I'm patting myself on the back because I remembered to turn my mic on again afterwards. Yay! I did something right. I'm very new to this whole streaming thing. I think this is my 5th stream I'm doing now. The first one I ever did was on my son's account, my son's Twitch account. He's Fluffy Cheeseburger. He may be in the chat here also. And hubby and son both encouraged me to get into streaming and show a few of my baking skills off. I'm just a regular old housewife. Baking skills, the whole idea of me having any knowledge of this whatsoever is yeah, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm learning to be vegan, so yeah, we'll see what it comes up with. Be happy when the cake is finished and it comes out of the oven if it tastes good. First time doing this recipe vegan. I'm trying, but you know, you guys could be trying along with me and learning something new, and hopefully it works out for all of us. So back to the blender. Mic's going off again. We'll just scrape this down the sides again. Saj was saying that he's had this cake by the recipe. He has, because it is a very easy one to make. If you've got the beetroot in the fridge, it's something that you can pull together quite quickly if you've got a function on at work, and guaranteed everybody's going to like it. This is the first time I've tried making it veganized, and we'll see how well Son enjoys this. Maybe Fluffy Cheeseburger will put something on his chat line if he's happy with the results at the end. We'll see how it goes. I'm just scraping. You're ruining my blender. ASMR. What does ASMR stand for? Somebody help me. First time she made it and told me it had beetroot in it, I was like, yeah, you were. But you ate it, didn't you? Turning the mixture on again, turning the blender on again. I've just scraped down the sides of the bowl, so mic's going off. Right, so ASMR. It's where you listen to sounds and get tingles from it. Oh, you mean like bubble wrap popping? I don't get the tingles from listening to the sounds. I get the tingles from popping the bubble wrap. Oh my gosh, I love it. It stands for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response. It's still a relatively new creation. It describes a feeling of euphoric tingling and relaxation that can come over someone when he or she watches certain videos or hears certain sounds. Okay, so is that kind of like my response that I have when I see a family member walk up to a ledge where I know there's a long drop, and I'm scared of heights, but I used to skydive. Go figure. When you see a loved one, or even when you watch one of those videos, you know those people that run around doing parkour and go up antennas and stand on the edge, and you know they've got no safety harness. It's that safety harness thing for me. When they have no safety harness on and they could just go like that and drop off the edge, oh, it makes my feet go hot, and I feel like I'm falling out of my feet. And I met a lady the other day who has the exact same response of falling. When something makes her scared and she can see someone dropping or falling, she falls out of her own feet. I do the same thing. I've never met anybody that feels the same way. So I wonder if that's a bit ASMR, because I know that my son or my daughter or my husband or whatever aren't going to jump off the ledge unless they've got parachutes on, which they wouldn't. It's the thought that they might do it and I fall out of my feet. And I know these people that you watch on YouTube videos aren't going to jump off the edge because they wouldn't be showing the video, that'd be taken down. It's that thought that someone's going to do it. Anyhow, no, husband, you wouldn't, because you've been told if you ever base jump, we are done. Skydive together for a lot of years. Base jumping, nah, there's only so much of stupid I can handle. Right. 1 tablespoon of baking powder. So I'll get my tablespoon measure out. About this time, I know I'm not far off from needing my oven, so I'm just going to go pop that on. It squeals when I switch it on, so I'm going to turn my mic off whilst it does that. So the oven needs to be heated to 180 degrees Celsius, or 160 degrees Celsius if you have a fan oven. That one has a fan, so I'll be using that, or gas mark IV. 180 Celsius is about 350 Fahrenheit if you're using Fahrenheit. So let me just go switch this on. 160 degrees fan oven. Can you still hear me? This headset just made a really, really strange noise. Can I get a thumbs up that I know that you're still hearing me? Thank you for putting the temperatures up there. Was that a thumbs up, husband? Yes, it was. Great. Thank you for that. I don't know what the mic was making a strange noise for. It just went boo, 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 boo. Maybe it's just saying hi. Who knows? Right, so now we're asking for 1 tablespoon of baking powder. I'm doing double recipe, so I'm going to use, guess what? 2 tablespoons. That's an awful lot of baking powder in there. 2 tablespoons. That one wasn't quite full, so I'm going to need to get some more baking powder, I think. Let me just check my pantry, see if I've got any in here. Baking powder. Nope, I've got lots of baking soda, so I need to get more baking powder. Leave that out to remind me to put it onto the shopping list. Right, who'd like to have a look at this? Oh, let me just blitz it one more time so you can see it. We've still got to add the milk or yogurt. Killing the mic. So Saj, yes, we have put baking powder in with the plain flour, the all-purpose flour, and that, remember, was 100 grams for a teaspoon of baking powder. If you check the recipe, 100 grams per one teaspoon was to make that plain flour a self-raising flour. So that's purely the flour part of the recipe. The recipe then also adds or requests another tablespoon of baking powder, so I need 2 for my recipe here. So next thing I need to add is 50 grams of cocoa powder. So I'll measure it out in here again. And I've got a tub of cocoa powder that's got a couple of mixture ones inside of it. So let me see how much I've got here. And then I've got another box of cocoa powder here, which I can fill that tub up with when it's empty. And a pair of scissors. Just checking. Thank you for checking, honey. That would have been a disaster if I'd already done it and doubled up on myself when I'm already doubling. Like this isn't confusing enough already. So I need 50 grams of cocoa powder. I'm doing double, so I'll be using, this is chocolate, so I'll be using 100 grams. Yep, there's only 50 grams there, or 15 grams, sorry. So I need 100 grams. $96, $99, $100. Okay. And I'll put the rest of that inside that tub later. And then I can recycle the paper and the plastic. So this is when the cake starts really changing. You're going to see the colour difference as I run this through here. It obviously becomes much darker. And because I want this to mix in nice and evenly, I'm just kind of laying it around the top of the beetroot mixture so far, so I can make sure I get a good even mix. Right, my oven's hot enough already, so that's good. That little bench oven does heat up so lovely and quickly. Mixing again. Okay, so as I'm mixing this, I'm hearing my food processor start to, it's not struggling, but the power is dropping in it. So obviously that cocoa powder is taking all of the moisture out of the mix that's already in there. We need to get the moisture added before I go any further, and I don't want to damage my food mixer. So I'm just going to take my mix here, and this is my yogurt substitute, and there is somewhat of a curdle inside of there. Just going to pour that inside, and I know I've got a little bit more than my recommended weight, so I'm not quite going to put it all in. Just put about half of it in to start with, just so this mixture can start mixing together nicely. Mixed in lovely, so I'll give this a wee scrape around the edges. So I see a lot of that beetrooty colour is still up around the edges of the bowl, and we want this to change to more of a chocolatey shade. So I've been over to the neighbours today and mentioned, these are neighbours that we've just got to know, lovely, lovely people. And I mentioned that I'm making this chocolate beetroot cake and that I'd made or bought too much beetroot. And said, oh, I'll be bringing a miniature version of it over to you later on. She goes, well, I won't be eating it. Why not? I don't eat chocolate. And so I can't, how could you not eat? So do you not like chocolate? Because I know that she's vegetarian and didn't know that perhaps she just avoids anything that has chocolate in it or anything that might have anything related to animals inside of it. I'm like, well, I'm veganizing it, so it's not going to be the regular old, and it's not heavy on the chocolate. And she goes, no, I've never liked chocolate. I'm like, that's it. I put down my cup of tea and I walked away. I said, you can't be my friend. How could you not like chocolate? I didn't walk away from her. We had a laugh, but so anyway, her husband's going to eat the whole cake and she's not going to have any. I did try to convince her otherwise, but no. Hey, you never know. Maybe I'll convert her. I'm not going to quite put all of this milk in here. So if you want to try this recipe at home, if you've not noticed already, there is a link on my homepage. If you feel that you're enjoying what I'm doing and you are tempted to donate, that would be wonderful too. I need to get rid of this wee headset, which is my son's, because it's big and bulky and I hate it on my head and it slides down, and yeah, I feel like a bumblebee with it on. So I would like it gone, and I would like to be able to fund a new headset if I could. But we'll get there in the end, I'm sure. So within this, I've just put the last of that milk less a little bit because I know that I weighed out too much. We need to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. I'm going to be using 4. A tablespoon is roughly 3 teaspoons. Usually I would guess this, but for you guys, there you go. So there's 1 1/3 tablespoons roughly in there. Now you could use vanilla paste. I've got some vanilla paste that my daughter insisted I purchase because her husband refused to have anything other than vanilla paste. And it's not stopped him eating any of the cakes, baked goods, or goodness puddings that I've made for him in the past. But I have bought some. I just haven't used it yet because I've got this vanilla essence to use up. But her husband's never complained about what it is I've made for him, so we'll see. Maybe I'll realise when I've used the vanilla paste just how good it is, and then I'll go down that road. Right, let me have a look. I'm going to mix again. That's coming together just lovely now. Right, something that I have forgotten to do, and this is probably because I'm trying to multitask just a few too many things by following the stream and making sure I'm doubling my recipe and making sure I'm talking to you guys and making sure I'm not completely destroying my kitchen in the process. I forgot to get my baking tins prepared, so let me just do that for you now. I can show you one of my toys that I got for Christmas. First of all, I bought one for myself, and because I loved it so much and I knew I would have another use for it, I Told my kids that's just what I wanted for Christmas, and when it was time to buy it, it was actually on sale. So it was a nice cheap Christmas gift for my kids. And here's my wonderful toy. I'll use it on the big pan first of all because it'll be more effective for this. So they recommend that you grease and line a deep 20 centimeter springform cake tin with baking parchment. So let me just see how big my baking tin is to give you an idea. Mine's 22.5 centimeters. So this cake is obviously going to be a wee bit shallower than had I been using a 20 centimeter pan. Oh, you want to hear the mixer? Because it might not be too loud. Okay, well, I'll give it another whiz in just a moment, but we'll let you have a look at what it is and how I'm going to line these pans. I've got non-stick pans, and in the past I've found that I've not needed to grease the insides of these. I just need to run a blade around the edge to release the pan. And the bottom of the pan is going to be protected with, they've suggested baking parchment. I use baking paper, very, very similar material, if not the same. So great way of doing this. Release your pan out of the base of your pan out of the ring, and then get a gadget like this. My husband even likes this. So the original one I purchased was for cling film, which my husband says every man's sworn enemy. Yeah, hubby always reckons that cling film was designed by women to frustrate men. But then we got one of these wonderful gadgets, and even he's pleased with this. When I first bought it, he's like, what the hell you got there? What are you wasting the money on? And then I let him play with it. So push the wee button on the front, it pops open. This one has got baking paper inside of it. You literally pull it out to how far you need it, close it, and it cuts it. Look at that. And the cling film one is exactly the same. So I'll take that little piece of extra off the edge there because it was a new roll. Lay your paper over the top of your pan, place this on top and close it. There, lined baking pan. Now that one I'm going to be cooking on its own later on. In the interim, I've got these little 4 small ones. Actually, I'll probably just do 3 small ones. That way I can add a little bit more than half of the mixture that I'm using, since I'm doubling the recipe, to that larger ring. So we'll set that one aside. So take these out. One of these doesn't release from the bottom, so I'm just making sure I'm not using that one. It's that one does not release from the bottom for some reason, so I'll close that up, grab the other. There we go. So my wonderful little cutty gadget thingamajig. What if I can get 3 rings out of here, out of the width? No, I can't, just 2. So just pull out, that's more than enough. Cut that off, tear this in half. And cover each of these rings. Women don't need cling film to frustrate a man. Careful what you say, hubby. Right, one more ring to do. Isn't that just the best tool ever? And then it clips closed and I'll pop it away. I've got this most ridiculous wine rack beside an oven. Who had the idea of sticking a wine rack beside the oven? I didn't design this kitchen, but we inherited it when we moved in. I don't know why you would ever put a wine rack beside a heating appliance. But there you go, we've inherited it, so I use it for anything other than wine. The bottles that you see in there are empty bottles, just to fill it up. Now you wanted to know if this food mixer was going to be loud with the mic left on, so let's have a go, shall we? So if you're happy with what you see, and new visitors that are joining us today, if you'd like to see more of my attempts at vegan cooking in the future, then please go ahead and I think the term is add me as a follow. I'd love to have you come aboard and join me and see my future exploits and see how badly I can mess things up in the kitchen. And believe me, I've been known to make some mess-ups, haven't we all? You learn from your failures. Here goes the mixer. Let's see how noisy it is on you guys. So there's the mixer going full belt. I can make it a little bit quieter if I cover the top of it. I'm not scared of you. We'll see. It's fine. That's great to know. Not loud at all. That's wonderful. Okay. Well, we're all mixed in now, so I can switch this off, and it's time to start serving up. So I'm going to move my lid out of the way. My oven's raring to go. Let me just run that timer a little bit higher, otherwise it's going to switch off on me. Right, time to serve up the yumminess. Oh, I'll wipe that bench down first. I hate it when you get sticky stuff on the surface of your bench. Whatever you put on it then just transfers it from here, there, everywhere, and you just get a dreadful mess in your kitchen. Don't need them messes. So I'm going to, I don't know if I want to load this pan yet, because there is always the risk that something's going to seep out, and if that's going to be sitting on my bench for a while before I get around to baking that one, that would be a very bad thing. So what I'll do is just load those ones. I want to see if I've got a small pan. I know this will fit inside the oven. It's the one that comes with the oven. If that will all fit on there together, perfect. Just in case it does dribble. Cup of tea, guys. Right, let me show you inside this. Doesn't that just look delicious? It's kind of like a really deep burgundy red, It's like, I don't know, blood that's been sat around for a little while and not quite dried yet. Is that sick? Ooh. It does look amazing, doesn't it? I'm just going to check the ingredients, make sure I've added everything to it. My recipe sheet here has been battered and used a few times with little notes left, right and centre, but always inside a nice clear pocket that keeps your recipe clean so you can still read it. I've got my coconut oil in there, I've got my beetroot in there, I've got my dark brown, my raw sugar inside there. I used plain flour with added baking powder and then the extra baking powder that was asked for. I've got my cocoa powder. Instead of natural yogurt, I've used soy milk, which I've soured with lemon juice. And I've got the vanilla extract, so that's all ready to go. So, now what's the best way going to be to get this mixture out of here without making a terrific mess all over the place? I really need a ladle. Don't really have one that's going to fit in there. Oh well, ho-hum, let's go for the mess. I've got my pan scraper here, my child depriver, so let's see. I think I'm going to about half fill these. Whoopsie, making a mess already. Now with these being small, hopefully they'll cook for us a little bit faster than the big one will inside the oven. So you guys don't have to hang around too long before you see the end result. And whilst they're cooking, we'll see if we can invent something to go as a topping onto those. So I'm just half filling my springform pans. The leftovers will go into that big springform pan that I've got, since it's larger than the original recipe calls for. Oh, yuck. Right. I want to lick the beaters. Actually, let me have a quick taste. Oh, that tastes nice. Oh, yes, that's very good. Sorry, hubby. No cake for you. But there's no reason why you couldn't make this yourself. Really easy cake to make, and I know you've got that new blender that you've bought for yourself, so something you could make for yourself there. So these are all ready to go into the oven. They're about roughly half filled, each of them, so we'll pop these in. I'll pop the rest of the mixture into the big pan after these ones have done cooking, just in case the pans leak. So we'll take these over now. The big cake, they say Bake for 50 minutes to an hour. I'm going to pop these in for 30 minutes, and I'll probably be checking them at about 20 minutes. So we'll drop those in there now. Mixture does smell so nice. Right. Now the ganache. So this is going to be an interesting mess, I expect. See this? This is my husband's coffee grinder. But he's not here to use it, so guess what? I'm going to be grinding some sugar up in here today. Let me just change a few of my power outlets around here so I can keep this within camera range for you. You can see what's going on. Now, where did I put that bowl? The measuring bowl. There it is. Can't see for looking. So, to make the chocolatey, ganache, saucy yumminess flavor to go over the top of this, the recipe is asking for 100 grams of icing sugar. Obviously, whatever I come up with will be 200 grams. 50 grams of dark chocolate, at least 80% cocoa solids. And the more cocoa solids you have in it, the more vegan it becomes, because the less dairy that is added to it. And if you're a strict vegan, you'll probably just find a vegan chocolate, or one that's had soy added to it to make it vegan. We're not 100% veganized yet, but we're getting there. Someone wants to know, do I know Jamie Oliver? No. I went to one of his restaurants in Australia one time, and I was quite disappointed. So disappointed, in fact. Hubby was with me. So disappointed that Jamie Oliver's name was being put to the restaurant food that was being served up. I've got I've got a couple of Jamie Oliver's cookbooks. I think he's done some wonderful things for the food content in British schools. He's really been a warrior for children's health and nutrition, which they weren't getting on the meals that were being served up in British schools. When I was in British schools, it was mashed potatoes, broccoli, broad beans. It was healthy food. When my kids were in British schools, it was pizza and fried this, fried that, chips. It was junk food. It was crap. They were feeding our kids crap. Jamie Oliver since then has come into the realm, and he's done some fantastic things, getting rid of all the deep fried food. The chicken that goes into the kids now is a roast chicken. It's not chicken nuggets or turkey Twizzlers as they used to have in the UK. He's really giving the kids some good, wholesome food. And kids need that good, wholesome food if they're going to be able to operate their brains so they can learn. And, you know, some of these kids, the only meal they're getting of a day is the meal that they're getting in school. There are some very deprived areas in the UK, as there are all over the world. They might be getting a free school meal, and if that's the only meal that they're getting, it needs to be healthy. And Jamie Oliver has done some wonderful things for that. I've enjoyed watching Jamie Oliver's cooking shows. I've cooked a lot of his recipes for my family, and was so excited to be able to go to a Jamie Oliver restaurant several years ago with my hubby. And we booked it well ahead of time. Went to the restaurant and went with 3 friends of ours, and I was so disappointed in the food, almost to embarrassment that I'd encouraged our 3 friends to come along with us. And yeah, so I wrote to the restaurant owner and said, this is disappointing that Jamie Oliver's name is against this food that you're serving up. The portion sizes were so small. I ordered some gnocchi, and literally I could have put the gnocchi that was served to me in the palm of my hand, and that was a main meal. Yeah. We got in touch with them and they apologized. I think it's something that Jamie Oliver's, the food itself, the flavor was there apart from the minute steaks, which was like shoe leather. Hi, Mr. Bo Barley. I think you're one of my hubby's followers, and thank you for joining the group. I much appreciate having you in here, and it's good to see you joining in on the cooking fun game. Yeah, back to Jamie Oliver. They did get in touch with me, and they've had their manager review the food that was going on in there and offered hubby and I an opportunity to go back. So the next time we were in Australia, we did go back to the restaurant. Some improvements had been made, but yeah, it was I still think they had a way to go. And would I go back to that particular restaurant? Probably not. And I understand a lot of Jamie Oliver restaurants in the UK now are starting to fold, which is sad and disappointing because he himself has done so much for the good of the diet of so many people, not just in the UK but all around the world. He's passionate about what he does. Maybe financial mismanagement if these businesses are going under, but I understand they're independently owned, a bit like Domino's is. They have the franchises, but yeah, there you go. It saddens me to see that they're failing, but I can understand why they are, given the experience that we had. Right, so Mr. Bobali, you've missed most of the show, but that's okay because from what I understand, the way these things work, it pops up in a video at the end of the game and cruising in from Mars. Poor Jamie. Yeah, I feel bad for Jamie too. The rest the video will pop up at the end of the stream, and you'll be able to watch me in all my wonderful red spotted gloriness with Mum's apron at the end. So let's get on to the icing. So we're looking for 100 grams of icing sugar. I'm not using icing sugar, I'm using raw sugar. I'm going to be playing with this recipe because I really don't know how it's going to turn out. So because I'm making double the batch because I bought too much beetroot, I'm going to pop in 200 grams of raw sugar into my bowl here. Right, 200 grams, there we go. And then I'm going to blitz it. Raw sugar, it comes in big crystals, and it chunks up quite easily, there you go, but it also breaks down quite easily afterwards. So this is all going to be very much a play. So it says on step 2 of the recipe, leave the cake to cool in the tin whilst you make the icing. Well, the cake is in the pan and in the oven at the moment, and it's just going to cook for 30 minutes because it's a small pan. We'll see if it's done sooner. So I'm going to make the icing now. So let's put the ingredients in a small saucepan, heat and whisk until smooth, cool for 20 minutes. Now this might break down enough to be runny enough to pour over, but I'm just a little bit worried that it's going to burn before it melts. So hubby's coffee grinder, which has sat in the pantry for I don't know how long, is going to be the tool that I use to blitz my sugar so it's more like icing sugar. So let me turn the camera down, you can see what I'm up to. So this is my 200 grams that I've measured out of raw sugar. Yes, your coffee bean grinder, it will be absolutely fine, I promise you, hubby. You don't know what I've used this for. I've made Chinese 5-spice and all kinds of stuff inside of here. Just think how sweet your coffee is going to be. You won't need to add any sugar to it whatsoever. Right. Now, tell me if this is too noisy. That was fine, wasn't it? And then after I blitz it, look, just like icing sugar. Right, we'll blitz the rest of that down. Yeah, it's quite a quiet little gadget that we've got. Do you remember where we bought this from, or was it something that you got free when you were working somewhere else? Weird that it goes from brown to white. Yeah, I guess it is a little bit. Should I tell him about the white egg story, honey? Yeah, that blitzes really quickly. Oh, that's right, previous tenants. We used to rent our house out. It's this lovely family who moved overseas. They came in from overseas and they were working locally at the same, or they were, one of them, the husband was working at the same facility that I was working at and needed somewhere to rent, so they rented our home. And they left this behind them when they moved away again, which is fine, made husband happy. What story? You remember the eggs? When we were looking for white eggs for Easter? And you were trying to, You told me that you couldn't find any white eggs, but that's okay for the kids to dye the eggs. And what I should do to the eggs, perhaps, to get them so that they would be white. That story. Right. Okay, so there's my 200 grams because I've doubled my... No, we don't need to share that. Okay, no, I won't share it. There's my 200 grams of icing sugar. Leave the cake to cool until while you're at that. Put the ingredients in a small saucepan, heat and whisk until smooth. Cool for 20 minutes. So in there I've got my 100 grams of icing sugar. It then calls for 50 grams of dark chocolate. Yeah, I think my hubby had I'm not going to say a blonde moment because I'm blonde. Yeah, I think he had a brain fart that day. But he was, in all seriousness, what he was thinking of, nah, that wasn't a brain fart. He was just being a muppet. Right, 100 grams. I'm using dark chocolate drops. These are left over from my Christmas baking that I did for everybody. So I'll use those up. Okay, here comes the joke. A blonde walks into a bar. You think she would have seen it? Boom, boom. Right, so there's my 100 grams of dark chocolate because I'm doing double the recipe. And then 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder. And once again, I am using a or potentially non-vegan cocoa powder, but that's okay. Now this says 1 tablespoon, double my recipe, so there's 1. And 2. And my son's just walked into the kitchen. He tells me that we are hearing Adele. Adele lives in our house. Is that what that bang was that I heard? Okay. So we've got 2 cats. And they're going to show themselves around here come on, come say hi. Come on, Pants. He's a special kind of cat. Come on, come say hi. When he's hungry, if the door is shut into the kitchen, he smashes his head onto the door. There's Chili, and this bigger cat over here. Chili's beside me. No, now she's not. And Pants is over here. You can just see him in shot still. He bangs his head on the door. I mean, literally, he goes up to the door and he head-butts the door until you let him in. So, yep, apparently that's what he was doing. I heard a thump earlier on. I didn't know what it was. And son's...
I thought it was you banging in here.
No, it wasn't me banging in here. It's the cats, obviously. They let us know when it's tea time. They either hunt one another or scream at us. Sing Adele. Wow. 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 Right, and to this I need 3 tablespoons of skim milk. Not using skim milk. Guess what I'm going to be using?
Fake stuff.
Fake stuff. Oh, the cats are having a scrap. If you don't feed me soon, I will eat this one. Right. Oh, you've got a large orange tabby. Oh, I love orange tabbies too. I'm just a tabby cat kind of person. Love tabbies. Keep them away from my food, please. So that's Pants. He's the old one. He's the special one. Is Chili going to come say hi too? This is Chili Bean. She's the younger one. She's the one that snuggled up in bed with me last night, all night, in her little igloo. Aww. Hi Arch Knight, thank you for joining us. You're coming towards the end of the recipe, but it's lovely to meet you. And if you want to watch the video at the end of my stream, how long does that normally take to pop up, Curtis, the video? Oh, instant at the end of my stream. And you'll see that I'm making a double recipe today. So I'm now making the icing for my cake. If you have a look on my homepage, you'll see the recipe, and Nightbot has just popped that recipe up there for you as well. I'm making a double batch because I bought too much beetroot and it needed using up, so why not just make too much cake? So I've just popped in, I'm doing the icing at the moment, I've just popped in 2 tablespoons of skim milk. I'm going to need to put in 6 because I'm doing double. 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm not using skim milk. I'm using a light soy milk, which I've watered down because that's more to our taste. We always used to drink skim dairy milk, and it was really hard to find a milk that we liked. Now, where's that little whisk of mine, Curtis? You know, the little balloon whisk?
I don't know.
It's somewhere safe, or it might be in that corner cupboard. Step aside now. Thank you for feeding the cats. Oh, Whisky Whisk, where are you? No, it's not in there. Maybe it's in this drawer. There it is. So, let me show you what we've got going on in here. So this is 200 grams of icing sugar, or 200 grams of raw sugar that I've blitzed in the coffee grinder to make it finer, so I don't have to worry about whether or not it's going to melt quick enough. 100 grams of dark chocolate. Remember, I'm doing double the recipe here. 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder in there, and I've put in 6 tablespoons of soy milk. And then we'll see about the shavings at the end of it. So let me just give this a stir through. So I get everything combined, because I just don't want that sugar to burn on the bottom of the pan before I take it to the stove. The smell in here at the moment is just delicious. The son walked in to feed the cats, and he's like, "Oh, Mum, it smells so good in here." And it does. Cup of tea, excuse me. Right, it's just about mixed through. Right, we'll take this over to the stove. So just on a low heat, it says put the ingredients in a small saucepan, heat and whisk until smooth, and cool for 20 minutes. So I'm just going to use a low heat here. And we'll grab my oven gloves, because we're going to be having a look at these cakes shortly. And find a skewer. It's a mean looking skewer. Alright, let's see what people are saying. UK accent is one of my... Oh, really? I got out of running a traffic light one time because of my UK accent. I was following a husband in the States. He was on his motorbike and I was behind him, and he went through this traffic light heading out to pick up a pizza somewhere, or I was going to pick up the pizza in the car, but he was heading out to take me out to somewhere. Like, "You're going the wrong way." I'm trying to stop him so that he could see that he was going in the wrong direction and get to turn around. He went through the light when it was yellow, and I just put my foot on the gas and got behind him and went through the light. And as I went through the light, it was obviously red, and I knew I'd done wrong, and I felt so bad. I just pulled straight over, right in front of an Applebee's of all places. There was a cop at the light, and he just flipped a U-turn and pulled up beside me, and I had a weapon inside the glove box. We were living in a bit of a dodgy neighborhood, so we'd bought protection for ourselves. And so it was concealed in the glove box. And the minute the cop, as you know in the States, if you get pulled over by a cop, hands on the steering wheel, and don't do anything until you're directed to do so. So I'd never been pulled over by a cop before in my life. So I sat there with my hands on the steering wheel, and I'm shaking in my shoes. And husband had seen what was going on, and it was going to do a U-turn at the next roundabout. And I'm just quaking because I knew I had this weapon, because it was concealed in my glove box, and I didn't have a license for a concealed weapon, just for a weapon on my hip. I knew I'd be in trouble for that as well. And this cop pulls up to me, his lights and sirens are all going, and he blocks me in outside Applebee's, and of course everybody's got their face plastered against the window watching what's going on. And the cop signals me to roll down my window, and oh, I better stir this. He signals me to roll down the window, and which I did. And then I'm like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. I ran the red light. I know I ran the red light. My husband's in front of me. I'm trying to catch up to him, and I've got a gun inside my glove box. And he's like, okay, ma'am, I just need to see your license and registration. I'm like, the registration's in the glove box. Do not touch the weapon, ma'am. Just get your registration out, and I need to see your license. So anyway, I got both of these out to him, and I'm just absolutely bricking it. You know, we didn't have the money to pay for a ticket. We were incredibly skint back then. So I hand him all my bits and pieces, and he goes, where are you from? And I said, England. And he says, oh, my sister is working over in England at the moment. And I went, oh, really? Whereabouts? And bless him, I didn't get a ticket. Oh, it was the English accent got me out of trouble. Mind you, an English accent can get you into a lot of trouble too. So you guys want to see this? It looks quite nice. There you go. Anyway, got to talking with this chap, and he was a retired military person, or had done some time in the armed forces, American armed forces, and he was very understanding of the fact of why we bought a weapon. At the time, my husband was spending a lot of time away from home, and I needed to protect, and we were living in a very dodgy neighborhood, and he was actually quite okay with it. You got to be sensible. People get into trouble with cops because they purposefully break the law. They get mouthy, they get cocky, they don't follow direction, and they get their asses shot if they're not careful. But there you go. Yep, that was a bit naughty, but I got a written warning from the cop, and do you think I ever ran another red light? Nope, never again. That looks so good. That is probably runnier than I want it to be, but I think as it cools down, it will be better. So let me just go take a quick look at those cakes and see how we're coming. Oh, they're looking good. Let's have a quick. They might be ready. A quick poke. Oh no, still very, very runny inside. That is going to be at least another 10 minutes, but I get to try it. Oh, yep. Definitely good. And the next 10 minutes or so, hopefully that chocolate sauce will cool down a little bit, so you guys can all see what it looks like when we pop it onto the cake. So I'm just going to tidy up my sink here a little bit in the hope that I can make some room in the sink and cool that chocolate sauce down nice and quick so it doesn't run straight off the cake when I go to serve it. My lovely Fisher & Paykel double dish drawer dishwasher, best thing Fisher & Paykel have ever made. Wonderful gadget, especially if there's just a couple of you at home and you don't use a dishwasher full of dishes every time or every day. So it takes us about 2 days generally to fill that up. So it's 2 drawers, one down the bottom here and another one up the top. And probably tomorrow this one will be full and I'll run this drawer and then I can start on the drawer below whilst that one's running. Now I'm just going to put some cold water inside this sink and add a little bit of ice so I can cool down that chocolate sauce nice and quick. I like this elevator music that's playing in the background here. I asked my husband to make a recording up for me. He live streams music and doing covers and whatever, and also some of his own stuff that he's written. And he sings as well. And I've asked him to get some of his original stuff because I think my first ever video, I broke copyright law. Not realizing it, of course, and so a lot of the stuff on my original stream was muted. I think there's is it a bot that picks it up? But there you go. Right. Oh, cute dress, by the way. Oh, thank you. Let me have a look. So how would you thicken up that chocolate sauce? You cool it down because the chocolate itself, let me turn the camera down. The chocolate itself, you've got to remember, it wants to be a solid. So as it cools, it will thicken a little bit. If it doesn't thicken enough, I guess you could put some corn flour, mix some corn flour with a little bit of your milk or your soy milk or your oat milk, whatever milk you're using. Mix it in and stir it through, and then just bring it to a very, very slow and gentle simmer because you've got to get corn flour to a boiling point before it'll thicken. But yeah, you could add a little bit of corn flour to that if you wanted it to thicken up. But I'm just going to drop this into this ice cold water that I've got over here, and that will help cool it down nice and fast. As that chocolate cools down, it'll want to harden up, and so the sauce will thicken. I'll set that aside there and see if I can follow the stream a little bit more. Right, yes, so I'm English. My husband is America, and we live in New Zealand, but my husband isn't currently here. Shall I turn the camera up so you can see me? There you go. My husband currently works overseas, and comes back for conjugal visits. Hey, it works for us. He spent a lot of years in the military, and so I got very used to deployments. Pretty much ended up raising our 2 kids for their younger years by myself, and it was really hard on the kids, and it was hard on me when the kids would go to some stranger in the commissary or the BX, and because they had military fatigues on, the kids would think that was daddy, and they'd go hang on onto the leg and look up and think it's daddy that they're hanging onto, and that was heartbreaking. Dad had come home for a few days, and then he'd have to take off on another deployment, and yeah, it was really hard. The kids were on a very strict rota, and they had to be in order for life to function at home when I was there with them on my own, getting them to school and whatever when they were a little bit older. And Dad would come home and break all the rules. So I had rules. You know, you don't come downstairs until you've made your bed, and you're up and you're dressed, and then you can have your breakfast, and you go back up and you brush your teeth, and then the day can commence, whether it be go to school or go to a friend's house or go to an activity. Husband had come home, all the rules go out the window. So when Dad was home, it was playtime. And I got the consequences when I had to bring the routine back into play when Dad went back on deployment again. It was tough, and yeah, there you go. Autofocus was tripping. Is it still tripping, or are we good now? And Nightbot say, hey, enjoying the content, why not? Yeah, support the stream. And I don't know how this donate thing goes, but there you go. She kicked me out. Yeah, I will kick you out, mate. Get over there. Military life, yeah, good times. Actually, we've got a lot of good memories of our armed forces days. We've lived in a few countries and met some amazing people. And the friends that you make in the military truly are friends for life. They're your family. And I'm as close to many of the friends that I made in the military as I am to my own family. Yeah. M. Sarge, no, he wasn't in the band. He was in a band here in New Zealand, but not in the band in the armed forces. Cruising informs. Do you mean the old group, the band? Yep. Nope. I'm not quite that old. Right. Oh, so all good. So the autofocus is great. So that's wonderful. We have got 3.5 minutes left on this cake. There's chocolate sauce. I'll show it to you now, because that cold is working its magic. I'll just lift it up. You can see it's not quite as runny as it was. It's actually quite hard to stir it on the bottom, so it is cooling down. Three and a half minutes until chocolate overload. It's a lovely glossy colour. I will turn the camera down so you can see. Lovely, lovely colour. Look at that. So I'm not going to need this coconut oil at all. So that can go back into my pantry. I've just had a big old clear out in my pantry, but I'm looking at it and it looks a mess again already. Let me sit that back inside the cold again. Will you bake the chocolate sauce on top of the cake or just pour it over? No, it just gets poured over. So the recipe is on my front page, home page, cover page, whatever that page is called. Still learning the terms. Just sit that in some ice water so it thickens up some more. So no, what we'll do is we'll take the cake out of the pan and I'll slide it onto a wee plate. You just see the size of that. Yeah, that'll sit in there just nicely. I'll slide it onto a wee plate. I need it to cool really before I take it out of the pan, so I might just have to fudge my way through this a little bit. But it will get poured over the chocolate cake. And once this chocolate icing on the top, once it cools down, it's going to harden up a little bit, so it'll be more of a ganache texture, so like a chocolate buttercream, if you like, without the butter or the cream. Cheers. And they said you can put some dark chocolate shavings to serve. Now I think I might have some chocolate in my refrigerator left over from something else that I made. Yes, I do. Some old gold dark chocolate. So that will be nice on top. You know what else would be nice? Would be some like raspberry powder or something like that. I don't have any, unfortunately. Grabbing a nice grater out of my pantry. I used to have all of my kitchen tools hanging up on the wall here. You know, like your spatulas and potato mashers and fish slicers and all that stuff. But there was a couple of the tools that very, very rarely got used. And I just took them down to wash them, and man, they were disgusting. So that put me off keeping anything up there anymore. Let me turn that oven back on again because I need to cook the big cakes, and we'll see how well these little ones are doing. So it's just beeped to say that it's cooked. So nope, still needs another 10 minutes or so. So I'm going to use a different timer. Oh, that tastes nice. Hit start on that. And another cup of tea. What are you saying about centerfold, hubby? What's that mean? Not understanding that at all. Yep, so my recipe is on my front page. Please have a peek at it. There will be another recipe at some point in time. I've just got to decide what I want to make or what I want to try and veganize the next time I'm cooking. We're trying the vegan diet to try and help Sun recover from its head injuries, for those of you that weren't with us earlier when I explained. Oh, I was saying the front page. Yeah, whatever the front page. No, it's not. Okay, yeah, no, not the centerfold. Okay, sorry, I'm slow off the start point today. Yeah, we're trying to go down the vegan route to help our son recover from head injuries he sustained back in 2017. And I thought it was going to be really, really difficult to start introducing new foods and this whole soy milk stuff, and I was really worried that it was going to be a hard thing to get into, but actually I don't miss meat at all. I do miss the choices of cheeses that we had, although I've just found a blog from somebody with different cheeses that they've made themselves, so I'll give that a go at some point. Maybe that'll be my next stream. We'll see. But yeah, cheese is the biggest loss. Oh yeah, I do miss you, husband. Of course I miss you. I'm talking about vegan diet, what it is you miss when you get into a new vegan diet. And so we're not doing this for, I don't know, can't think of what the word is. We're not doing this because I don't like the harming of animals. If you told me to go out and hunt my own bacon, I couldn't do it. It saddens me. But it's it's not the ethical reasons that we're doing it. Vegans can have ricotta. Is there a vegan ricotta then? Because isn't ricotta made from animal milk? I do like fishing, and I love fish. So yes, I do hurt fish when I catch them, I guess. I try and put them out of the misery as quickly as I can, but that's not always possible. Yeah, I couldn't sort out my own bacon. I wouldn't know how to do that. And I am guilted by the harm that we might do to animals. That does bother me. But this is purely if we didn't think a vegan diet would help our son, I'd still be eating chicken, I'd still be eating pork, I'd still be eating bacon, I'd still be eating beef. But I feel better for this. No, I'm not a pescatarian. I'm not eating fish either. So, there you go, hubby. You're going to get some surprises when you come home. We're all plant-based. Everything we have is plant-based now, other than using up the ingredients that are in the pantry. I do feel better for it. This is purely for health reasons. I feel better for this. The first couple of weeks were tough on my gut as we're trying to... Yeah, I couldn't look into the eyes of an animal and then kill it. No, me neither. The cat brings a half-dead mouse in, and I can't finish it off. I'm like, son, go take care of that. Oh, no, I'll never forget my kitten, Chili Bean. Husband was working away. Son was living elsewhere. I was at home alone, and I hear the cat flap go one morning as I'm on my way to work. So I'm already up and showered and ready to walk out the door. And I hear the cat flap go, and she sings the song of her people. You know, that mouthful of different meow. I've got something for you, but I'm not going to share it with you. And I walk into the hallway, and she's got this rabbit that was bigger than her, and she stood over it, growls if you go near it. She stood over this cat and this rabbit, and she looks at me like, I did this. And the rabbit was eyes wide open, but it wasn't moving. So she'd obviously, and it was still warm, caught it somewhere and brought it in. And so I chased her away and got a hold of this rabbit. I'm like, in a plastic bag, grossing myself out as I'm picking it up. And I'm like, what do I do? I'm going to be late for work. What do I do with this rabbit? And he said, yeah, this rabbit was twice the size. She dragged it through 2 cat flaps. I don't know how she did it. Got the rabbit and herself through these 2 cat flaps to drop it into the hall for me. So I got this rabbit. I'm like, well, it's dead. So I bagged it up and I put it inside my black rubbish bin with a black bin sack around the edge, put the lid on, closed it up, locked it down. And I went to work, and as I'm driving to work, I'm like, oh my God, what if the rabbit was just stunned and it wasn't dead? And now I've got this poor rabbit is shut inside a plastic bin, which there'd have been enough air inside there for it to survive and everything else. But thankfully I was only working 4 hours that day. I went and spoke with a lovely gentleman at work who's been incredibly supportive of me when husband works away. We've often sat down and had very, very good chats together. And I said to him, he could see I was worried, like, whatever's the problem. And he said, bless him, when you get home at lunchtime, if you hear thumping coming out of that bin, give me a call. I'll come over and dispatch it. Bless his heart. So I came home and went over to my bin and gave it a little kick to see if there was a thumping response. Nothing. Looked inside, and yeah, the rabbit was definitely gone. So that, it was awful. Cruising in from Mars. I'm lacto-vegetarian and I love it. So I'm a lacto-vegetarian. So does that mean that you don't have, you're a vegetarian, but you have milk, or you don't have milk? I'm a little bit confused. So just, yeah, if you can clarify, that'd be great. And hopefully I'll catch that on stream as you're clarifying. Yeah, a couple of minutes, and I think that cake's going to be there. Oh, yeah, that's coming along nicely. Really starting to thicken up. I'll give it a good mix through, so any of the warm bits can cool off a bit. So we've got that hot chocolate sauce, or what was a hot chocolate sauce, now sitting in ice water, and I hope I can cool it down quick enough to get it into the pan. You got it. I don't have the eggs. So you do have milk, you just don't have eggs. Yeah, is that right? Yeah, and that's, it's whatever it is. I'm not no one to judge. Purely, no one to judge. I'm still learning this whole process myself. And in the past, I've thoroughly enjoyed eating chicken and bacon. Oh, that's the hardest thing to give up. Love bacon, but I actually don't miss it, and I do feel so much better on this diet. And I've had some strange looks when I go away on a trip somewhere, and potluck dinner or something, and I take something that's vegan there. For an example, a friend had a big birthday barbecue, and of course, barbecue, it's all meat. Now there was tons of salads there. Some of them were made with regular old mayonnaise, which would have had eggs in it. And yeah, I tried the salads, and I'm not going to not eat something. I'm not going to turn my nose at anything, but I just chose not to eat the meat. And I had plenty of choices of what to eat. I got a whole lecture from a couple of people. Oh, you have to have meat in your diet, and oh, you don't eat eggs, and oh, you don't eat this, and oh, you don't eat that. And it's not that I'm not eating it, it's just I'm avoiding it. So we went out for coffee the other day, son and I did, and it was around lunchtime, and so I popped into the cafe and said to the guy that owns the cafe, do you have anything here that's vegan? And nope, we don't, but we've got this, it's vegetarian. That's fine. And I ended up with a frittata that had eggs inside of it, and I think son had a pizza that had a tiny little bit of meat on it. We're not hard and fast 100% vegans. We are just doing our best to stay to a more plant-based diet, in the hope of it'll help with some health problems, and it seems to be working. Seems to be working to the stage that husband will be very excited to hear this, if he hasn't heard it from son already, that our son's started driving again, which is wonderful news. After 3 head injuries, he was petrified to get onto the road again, but we went out to a local industrial area where there was no one working on a weekend, and he's started driving again, and just local area, and he's had his license for a number of years and should have been driving, but with head injuries he just didn't feel comfortable. There goes my timer. Let's see how this cake is sitting. Purely from efficiency of food production perspective, if you turned all the dairy farms into farms that grew plant foods, you would increase the food production exponentially. Absolutely. Yeah, so let's have a look, see how these cakes are coming along. Oh, yep, they're done. Right, let's set this on here. I want to get that big cake into the oven, so if I shift these little ones out of the way. Ouch, burnt myself. Pop this one over here for you so you can sit and admire it whilst I'm just clearing the other pans out of the way. Doesn't that look delicious? The smell in my kitchen right now is absolutely divine. Just look at that. So I'm just going to let that sit for a couple of minutes and cool down a little bit. As it cools, it will shrink away from the sides of the pan ever so slightly. And whilst that's cooling off, we will pop the rest of this cake mix into the big pan so we can get that into the oven. I was. I'm just seeing some of these comments of when the American government wiped out the buffalo in the 1870s. I don't know what that's getting towards because I don't know anything about that story. But I was almost accused. Yeah, but if we all stop eating animals, then then sheep will go extinct, and pigs will go extinct, and cows will go extinct, and we have to look after the animals. And really, I'm not judging anybody here. I'm not. Each to their own, I say. If you want to eat beef, eat beef. If you want to eat lamb, eat lamb. If you want your bacon buddy, have your bacon buddy. But please don't judge me because I'm choosing not to at this particular moment in time. It might be a stage that we don't see any long-term benefits from the vegan diet and we go back to our regular old eating habits. But to be perfectly honest, I'm enjoying what I'm cooking and I'm enjoying what I'm eating. And Son is eating it and he appears to be doing better on it. I don't know if he thinks he is, but he appears to from my perspective. And since I do the majority of the cooking, unless he wants to start cooking some meat dishes for himself, then he's going to be eating vegan for a while as well. Unless, of course, we get any report that comes back that says that we're lacking in any vital nutrients, then I'll have to readdress the whole issue. That's the last thing I want to do is create a problem whilst trying to resolve another problem. So just get see this, my child depriver. I should just scrape this bowl out. Isn't that colour just beautiful? So rich, just divine. Once we've got all of this into the pan and into the oven, then we'll have a look at putting some of that lovely ganache, that lovely icing on top of the smaller cakes that we've already made, and then maybe have a taste. Now, we've made this cake in the past, and it's really nice served with either, if you have some, a vanilla ice cream or whipped cream. I mean, you can have it on its own. You don't need to put anything else with it. But and it's also nice with yogurt. So you could use a fruit yogurt or just a plain yogurt. I've actually got some coconut yogurt inside the refrigerator. So I will probably serve it with that when it's time for the big feast of the big cake. So husband's been responding to this whole stream on here. Husband is Msaj, the music streamer, and he's the American one of the family. We're a very multinational family. Okay, so the Spanish introduced cows, and then McDonald's made cows everywhere, and now all the land is cows. Animals eat grass, that's vegetarian, we eat them, so, yeah. Boy, it's all just confusing, isn't it? Where we live, when we first moved out here, we had lots of sheep in the paddocks all around, and obviously, if you're going to farm sheep, you're not going to make as much money as if you grow grapes. Because now we have so many of our paddocks have been turned into grapevines. You can't see an animal for literally tens of miles, which just saddens me because I did enjoy seeing the sheep. But you know what? I ain't eating them now. I just miss seeing them. And there was all the concerns about the waste that comes from animals. You know, we've got problems with water shortage. We've got problems with river pollution from the excrement and whatever from the animals, from the dairy farms and from sheep and everything else and the animals. And I'm trying to think of something negative that if everybody, I'm not saying everybody should, but if more people were vegetarian or vegan, how much damage would a plant-based diet be doing to the environment? Because from what I can see, a plant-based diet means you've got more green things growing, which means a better atmosphere, which means a healthy living for all of us. So there you go. Yeah, I do like the baby lambs boinging around. They're cute, but I really don't fancy eating them anymore. Right, let's pop this big cake into the oven. Now this one is going to take an hour, so let me just get that set in and running, and then we'll come back to icing one of these smaller ones. Change my time on that. I'll set it for about 50 minutes and see how she's doing. Love that benchtop oven. Brilliant little thing. Right, so let's bring this cake back into play and wipe the cake off my arm. And I'll get another hot pad so I don't burn my benchtop. Okay, so see how that chocolate sauce is thickened up now? Much better, isn't it? A good whisk through. You can feel how thick it's gotten. It's just so much more difficult to stir it up now. Yeah, there you go. More plants equals more oxygen is given off. It cleans the air. Yep. Lots of countries are vowing to plant millions of trees, but will they follow through? That's the question, isn't it? So, I need a non-metal knife to cut around this little pot, this little baking dish, so I don't scratch it. What can I use? That's not going to work. That's probably too thick. You know what, maybe I'll use a toothpick or a skewer. That'll do the trick just right. Okay. So this has shrunk away from the sides a little bit, so I'm just going to run this skewer around the edge just to make sure it's released. So you could use a cooking spray, but these are non-stick pans and I found them to be pretty good in the past, and they wash up really nicely as well. Right, that's come off quite nice. Just quickly grab a mug and turn that upside down. So this is a little trick if you don't know it already. I'm sure most of you regular cooks will know. If you get a mug and you've got a springform pan, a mug or a cup or whatever, I use my mug, that should work just nicely. You can release the cake out of the pan using that. So I've loosened the sides here, and it's, if you remember, I put baking paper on the bottom of the pan before I clipped it into place. So I'll just undo this wee clip on the side, and you can see it has released from the side here. And then just to help it get out of the pan, take that round to here, sit it on the mug. Is it going to push down? There it goes. And then your cake is released. Oh, doesn't that look nice? Rightio. So I've still got metal underneath there. Let me move this ring out of the way. The sun can be doing the dishes tonight. So this sits on a little metal ring. I can lift that off. Oh, the heat that's coming out of that is terrific. Really need to cool this down a little bit, I think, before we can pop that onto the plate or pop the icing onto the top, 'cause it's just going to run straight off. Now from this it says flip the cake onto a wire rack flat side up and then pour over the icing. So will I just quickly fish out a little wire rack that I've got? That will help it cool down a little bit faster. And you don't have to do it this way, you can do it the right side up, but I will just follow the instruction, which is a rare thing for me when it comes to cooking. So I use my paper to help me flip it over. Hopefully I won't launch it across the kitchen. There we go. And the baking paper just comes off almost cleanly there. Just set that aside. Let that cool down. Move this out of the way. I'm just going to dampen down my cloth and wipe down that bench again. Now the trick here, what they recommend you do is that you, if I read it correctly, flip the cake onto a wire rack flat side up, pour over the icing and leave to cool completely. You know what happens when you pour it over and you've got it on a rack? Your rack gets filthy. And then all that chocolate that's ran off and drizzled away, you lose it. So I'm purely just going to leave it on that rack for a wee while so it can cool down some before I put my chocolate cake and the chocolate drizzle on top. Actually, I think I'll just slide that into the fridge. I know you're not supposed to put things in the fridge that are hot, but for the sake of being able to let you guys see the end result, then that is what's going to happen today. And this is a wonderful cake to bake up and take into work for all of your work colleagues to enjoy. It's incredibly moist, very, very rich, so easy to make. I mean, I've taken my time with this today, but generally you can get the thing blitzed up within 20 minutes, sling it into the oven, walk away, hour later, come back, it's ready to go. Leave it a few hours or make the chocolate sauce up, take it into work, and then pour the chocolate sauce over the top. You don't have to use the chocolate sauce. You could buy that store-bought stuff in a can, which I personally don't like. I find it incredibly sweet, but you can use that to frost it with later, just once the cake has cooled down. Ideally, you don't want to be pouring your chocolate over the top when the cake is still hot. I have pot holders just like them, and I love them. I do too. They're like maracas, aren't they? Thing is, if you hold them for too long, hold something with them for too long, you do get burnt hands. So they don't have the weird thumb slot. Oh, so yours are more like the traditional oven gloves, are they? You know, kind of when they're strapped together, a bit like how your mum used to thread your gloves together in your coat and stitch your gloves together so you never lost a glove. Stitched together with a piece of elastic. Let's have a look. What else have we been talking about? That camera's autofocus. I'm sorry. Should I turn it off? Do you want me to turn it off? Is it still playing up? Or is it just when I turn this down and I'm making things around? I don't want to turn it off and then find out that I need it to be on. So I'll wait to see what you say again. When I switch over, it took me about 2 years to figure out how to do it. I'm still learning, but I've been able to be consistent since then. I'm assuming that's with the vegetarian choices. And yeah, I guess you just learn new habits, and they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but hey, I think you've got to be willing to make the changes. And originally it was willing to make the changes to help Son's health, but the more I get into it, I'm happier with the choices that I'm making, and I'm feeling better for it. So yeah, we'll keep going at it for a wee while yet, and so it's early stages. We're only a few weeks in, but I'm seeing nothing but good changes. So there you go. Well done for sticking with it. Well, thank you, hubby. And I'm very proud of my hubby. He's it's only when it's pointed down and I'm not in view. Okay, all right. Right, so when I go to ice this cake, then I will turn the autofocus off and hopefully it will help you. Yeah, hubby's been on a diet of late, and we've been married for a fair few years, and he's struggled with enjoying too much food for a fair few years, and I can't count the number of times when he said, what do you want for your birthday, what do you want for Christmas, and I've said, for you to lose some weight, because I'm worried about him. And it's been a fair few years of torturing himself, enjoying too much food. Yeah, okay. I'm trying to be nice here, hun. He's always been he's a big guy. I didn't use the F word. He's cut back on his alcohol intake, and he's changing what he's eating, and it's been probably about 4 weeks since I last saw him, and he's lost, what did we say it was, about 8 kg, honey? He's done so well, and it'll be a few more months before I get to see him again, but by the time I see him again, I'm hoping that he's going to be back to around the weight from when we met, and that will be truly amazing. And I'm so excited that he's making some wonderful changes in his life, that are going to keep him around for a few more years to come, so we can enjoy many more years together. Not being deployed somewhere or the other side of the world somewhere, but we can enjoy a long and healthy retirement together. And we can't keep ignoring what's happening to our bodies. We can't keep poisoning ourselves with things that aren't healthy. And we all have our choices, but I don't think a double mac and cheese is healthy. It's not healthy. I mean, you want to look at obesity levels around the world, and they rise exponentially with fast food restaurants. Anywho, how's that cake doing? Great thing about fruity tea bags, oopsies, is you can drink them when they're cold as well, and they don't taste horrendous. So there you go. It's expensive to eat healthy these days. It is expensive, but you don't have to go buy your fruit and veg out of a supermarket. You can go to regular markets and you can get stuff much cheaper there. Buy the ugly fruit and can it or freeze it or make a soup or a casserole out of it. It's not that much more expensive, and at the end of the day, what kind of a price do you put on your own health? Would you rather pay more for your food? Isn't it ironic that McD's is cheaper than that a burger's cheaper than a salad? It is ridiculous. Just don't go to McD's. Make your own salad at home. It's cheaper than McD's. What price do you put on your own health? What price do you put on longevity? What price do you put on being able to see your kids and your grandkids grow up? And what price do you put on being able to play with them and have the energy to enjoy those kids? And it's all choices that we make, isn't it? And yes, it is a price, but there are ways around it. Not everybody, but some people can grow their own veggies, but not everybody can. So I'm just going to play with this wee camera for a moment. I'm going to point you down so you can have a look at the cake. Speaking of tea, is your name Earl Grey? Tea. Bless your heart. No, and I can't stand Earl Grey and Lady Grey. I think it's horrible. Right, let me see if I can figure out how to turn the autofocus off on this camera. Right, I've killed the autofocus. I hope it works. So here's my cake. It's still quite warm even though it's been inside the refrigerator. So we're just going to lift that off of here. Pop it onto here. I'm keeping it face side down because I'm hoping that when I pour this frosting over, that the smoother top will help give more glossiness to it. We'll see what happens. That's like 2 mouthfuls. What, this cake? No, this is not 2 mouthfuls, Curtis. So Fluffy Cheeseburger is my son, and he's helped me so much with the IT side of getting this together. He makes me do more and more myself, and it scares me because I'm sure I'm screwing up, but he's there and he's backed me up, and I'm using his headset. Thanks for letting me borrow it, Curtis. Doesn't that sauce look delicious? Look how glossy and shiny that is. So since I've got to share this between 2 more of these small cakes and then that big 22 centimeter cake that I used, today I'm going to learn how to do a raid. Oh no. You know what I do need is a spatula, because this is going to dribble off the edge of the pan. So I'm not going to put all of this on here, just a small amount. We'll spread it about. Right. I want that to run all the way across the top here. Maybe if I tip the plate around a little bit. Kind of want it to drizzle down the edges. Have you seen those drizzle cakes you can buy? Oh my gosh, they look so good. Nope, spatula might be a better way of doing this. I don't want to press down too hard because the base of this cake may be not might be likely to peel away from it, when because it's not completely cold. I don't want to strip a layer off of it. So what I was wanting to do, but I don't want to use all this chocolate ganache up, was get that kind of, can you see the dribbly look down the sides? If I tilt it a little bit, you might see it. That's what I was hoping for, but I don't think I'm going to be overly successful without using a whole heap more of the chocolate sauce. I just put a little bit more on. So it really doesn't need this. If you don't want to make the chocolate sauce, it doesn't need it, but it is a bit of added decadence. So we'll just treat ourselves today. Yep, that'll do, I think. And then for a final flourish, move that chocolate sauce out of the way. I'm getting stuff all over me. Let me just wash my hands up. For a final flourish, we'll just grate a little bit of that chocolate on top that I've got. So I have got getting a hankering for some chocolate cake now with a big glass. Isn't that chocolate brownies? Oh, I always used to have a glass of milk with chocolate brownies, but I don't know if I could drink this soy milk. Actually, I haven't tried it. I ought to try it, didn't I? Try that soy milk on its own. You know what? I will. And I'll get a glass out for Curtis as well, see if I can get him to drink it on its own. Grate some of this chocolate on here. So I've got some Old Gold 70% cocoa chocolate. So this is made by someone, I guess it's Old Gold. I don't know who the company is that makes this. I don't think it's Whittaker's. Maybe the company's called Old Gold. Oh no, it's a Cadbury one. Cadbury chocolate. We tend to buy Whittaker's now. So Whittaker's is a New Zealand made chocolate, and it pains me to say this, but I really like Whittaker's better than Cadbury's. But obviously this would have been on sale when I went to buy chocolate. Yeah, this chocolate is melting straight away into that ganache. It's still a little bit warm. So there we have our chocolate cake. Now I'll be able to tell whether or not Son is watching the stream live, because if he is, he will show up quite rapidly. Have you tried buying whole milk and just cutting it with water? No, I haven't. And we're trying to avoid dairy milk at the moment, and we're using the soy. Why waste the chocolate? Because I didn't like to lick my fingers. So is he listening? Are you listening, Curtis? Because I'm about to cut this cake up, and I think you should come and try some of it, if you know what's good for you. So I will get some of this milk out. So this is our soy milky. I'm not going to put much into our glasses, because this is soy milky light, which I've watered down 50-50 with water. Oh, I think he's on his way. I hear footsteps. Oh no, he's just waved. Is he heading to the bathroom perhaps? I think he'll be here shortly, so let me get another couple of plates out. And here he is. Is it cake time, Son?
Hell yeah.
Hell yes. Right, let me get a nice one. Bring that back. This is not just for you, greedy guts. So it's still hot, Son, so I didn't intend for it to be eaten hot. But, I mean, the chocolate's melted into it, and I've made a mess all over the bench. I'm sure you're going to mop up all those bits and pieces, but do you want to try some? But you've got to have it with some soy milk, because we've not tried that on its own, have we? We've not had... Don't spoil it. Okay, he's sipping it.
No.
That's a no?
That's a no.
Right, he won't drink the milk. Don't throw it out. I'll drink it. Or maybe I'll try it at least. Yeah, this is collapsing because it's still too warm to cut. But I'll cut him a wee slice.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. falling apart. It said still too hot to be cut. Let's see if we can come up with a better slice. Can you smell this? Oh. Ooh. Right, I'll show you the inside of the cake. Hang on, I'm going to lick my finger. There. Moist. Moist chocolatey goodness. Now I'm going to have to wipe my fingers because they are disgusting. And we're going to have to go for the taste test. So this is the final part of the stream. This is where we get to enjoy the fruits of my labour.
Try it.
Which one do you want, Curtis? You want that one? There's a fork. Right, get yourself on stream. And you've got to give me a score. I want the honest score. The honest score that you would give if nobody was watching. Do you taste beetroot? Do you taste beetroot? Doesn't taste like beetroot, does it? Oh man. That is moist.
Moist.
It's not moist, stodgy, runny, falling off your plate moist.
Beetroot at the end.
Oh, you got beetroot at the end? Is it good beetroot or bad beetroot?
Just kind of there.
So you're not. I'll try the milk. So this is Vida soy milky light, watered down 50-50 with water. Oh, that's alright. Have a sip now you've had a piece of cake.
I'll try it.
You didn't like it? That was a big no? I could actually drink that. In fact, I will actually drink that.
I never liked milk anyway.
Oh, that's good. I never thought that I would drink that with like a brownie or something like I used to, but this cake is really good. So there you go, guys. There is my veganized, eggless, chocolate and beetroot blitz cake. You're welcome, Curtis. Thank you very much for coming over and taste testing for me. What was the score?
It's 7.
A 7 out of 10. So you don't want me to make it again?
I didn't say that.
He wants me to make it again.
Compared to like a normal cake.
This is making strange noises.
It's going doo-doo-doo.
When it went bzz bzz bzz.
Might be running out of juice.
Okay, I better be quick then.
For a vegan cake, that's a solid 8 or 9.
Oh, there you go.
For a cake, it'd be like a 7.
So if you could compare that with your regular non-veganized cakes, you would score it a 7. But as a vegan cake, it gets an 8 or 9, knowing that you're probably eating healthier because of it. I think it's a hit. Make that again sometime. Thank you everybody for joining us. I'm just practicing it, becoming a vegan here. Changing my recipes as best I can to veganize them. All for health reasons, nothing to do with ethics, I guess. The recipe, the eggless chocolate and beetroot blitz and bake cake recipe link is on my front page. Please click on it. Do have a look carefully at the front page so you can see how I've veganized my recipe as best I can. I do hope that you've enjoyed the stream. Any questions, please let's have a chat now, and look forward to seeing you again sometime to enjoy some more learning to practicing vegan cooking.